out of control.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Premise Podcast. Your name is Steven.
That's right, and your name is Bo.
And you, plural, are our audience. So
That's right, audience.
That's right. Were you ever a cheerleader, Steven, or did you ever hope to become one?
It's my dream. I'm going to go back to school for it later after I finish this current grad degree.
Which is what?
I'd rather not say.
Well, on a related note, we have a very special podcast this week that I'm sure our fans will applaud us for. Thank you. This week, it is The Bachelor Show reimagined in podcast form. It's called the Podcachelor. You want to tell us a little bit about it, Steven?
That's right. The Podcachelor, we have invited someone on who is going to have their very own podcast. And what they must do is decide between a number of contestants and figure out who they would best host a podcast with. On this week's episode, we're down to the final 6 contestants, and it's going to be narrowed down to 1. So it'll be very exciting.
That's right. We're not like those other CBS programs who, bring it all the way down to 3 and then 2. We go straight from 6 to 1, baby. That's what we're about.
Ooh.
6 to 1. So there's everything. There's drama. There's talking heads, right? Which is that thing where you tell the camera separately. Like when Jim in The Office goes and complains about Dwight. You know those? And those happen in The Bachelor too.
Yeah, there's ventriloquists.
There's ventriloquists.
In past seasons, there's been sex.
There has been sex, which was unnerving to have on a podcast. Some seasons have resembled more like The Real World or The Big House. What is that one called? Big Brother House?
I have no idea.
The Big House, I think, is what it's called. But this season has it all. It has a great podcatcher. Her name is Becca M. And all these contestants vying to be her podcast host, all with great podcast ideas. There's drama, there's comedy, there's intrigue. There's ventriloquists, as you said. We can't stress that enough, that there are ventriloquists.
That's right, Bob.
Anything else we should mention before we get into the show, Steven?
I don't think so. Let's dive in and meet our contestants.
So this is the season finale of the Podcachelor. Welcome back to the Podcachelor, where every week different contestants compete to be the co-host for our Podcachelor, who is Becca M. Becca, how are you feeling this week?
I'm feeling pretty good. It was really, really tough to cut it from, 48 contestants to, just like 5 or 6. But I'm feeling okay.
And I gotta say, Becca, I was really surprised that none of the 3 ventriloquists that were involved in the original 48 made it this far.
Yeah, I was too, but the more time I spent with them, the more aware I was that really the ventriloquist stuff didn't really translate to a podcast. And so I was really disappointed that, they didn't really make the cut, but I think that's the reality here.
That's right. It was very unclear with just the audio who was talking, the man or the puppet.
So unclear.
Steven, do you want to recap what happened last week on the show?
Yeah. Well, it was a very dramatic week for us here in the studio. We had 16 people involved. We got it down to 8. And now we're down, and Becca's going to select this time who it is she's going to be recording a podcast with. I'm really excited for it. I hate everybody that's left, but that's okay. It's not about me. I'm not here to record a podcast. It's Becca that's recording the podcast. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Becca's recording a podcast. That's true. So we've had some very eventful weeks, and this week, for the sake of time, we are moving on to find out who will become the co-host for this year's Podcachelor. We're narrowing it down from 6 to just one contestant this week. So be ready. Every week, we begin with 3 randomly selected contestants, and they enter into a microphone ceremony where one of them will be sent home. Every week, we start this way: 3 randomly selected candidates. Before we get to that, let's reacquaint ourselves with the contestants one last time.
Hi, I'm Liz S. I have brown hair, but my dog has black hair. I'm a Peace Corps volunteer, except not anymore. For my podcast, each week we would be examining weather patterns in a random city around the world. My favorite thing about Becca is that if she punched me in the face, I know that I would have deserved it.
Hey y'all, my name is Gina A, and I'm the social chair for my sorority at the University of Alabama. Roll Tide. I think it would be awesome if we did a podcast about Rush and how to get just the right outfit so that you stand out, but not in a bad way. Something really special about myself is that even though I haven't had my highlights touched up, I still look very, very blonde. And I just want to say that I think Becca is so awesome, and I really hope that we can work together, and I'm super excited. Bye.
Hey, my name is John M. I'm a youth director at a church, and my podcast idea would be that we go into the lives of people, contestants on the show, Bachelor, Bachelorette, and we would only interview people who got kicked off on the first night. See, I'm very interested in them. The show doesn't show them. It doesn't say anything about those people. So I want to learn more about them, what makes them tick. I really hope this works out. Becca, you have such good handwriting. I know we would be a great podcast team, so I hope this works out.
My name is Ben W. I am an intramural basketball champion, so very athletic. I'm a rocket scientist by trade, and I think she has very excellent taste in men.
Okay, 3, 2, 1 second. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hi, my name's Jack C. I'm an aerospace engineer from Florida. One idea I have for a podcast would be a political or philosophical debate where all of the participants have to, it's also ASMR, so they have to whisper really quietly. And I really like Becca's really well manicured fingernails. I think that she has some very pretty fingernails, and it looks like she really takes care of her hands really well.
Hey, my name is Carey S. I live in Clearwater, Florida. I'm a Libra. I'm an Enneagram 9. I work at a nonprofit with children, youth, and families. I don't have an idea for a podcast, but I do have $1 million idea for a restaurant called Flights, where everything is served in the form of a flight. Now that I say that out loud, I think that's just tapas, but still a good idea. And Becca, the only thing I know about you is that your name is Becca, but from that I can gather that you have a beautiful, sparkling personality.
Now, Steven, at the end of this episode, we'll have our biggest mic ceremony of the season. The one where we find out who gets sent home, and not just that, who gets to do the podcast with Becca. So we have our 3 randomly selected contestants who will enter our introductory microphone session. And one of them will get kicked off. Tell us a little bit about who was randomly selected for this episode.
That's right. And it was a little bit of a shocker here. We have one candidate who I think was at least not a favorite of mine from the beginning, and Ben W. And then we had two more who were real favorites from the beginning, and John M and Liz S. So I'm really excited just to hear what happened.
That's right. Gina A, Carey S, and Jack C have all already gotten microphones from Becca, and now Becca M will decide who is going home at the beginning of this week's episode. Becca, are you ready to decide?
I'm ready.
Becca, please talk us through how you're going to give out your first mic.
I think for my first mic, this person as a co-host they've got some work to do to convince me that they'll be the right co-host for me, but I love their podcast idea, and that's John M. So I'm going to give my first mic out to John M.
Thank you so much, Becca M. I'm looking forward to it.
John M., do you want to give us a quick talking head about how you feel after getting that mic?
I was real nervous this week. I know that I could have done better, but I'm glad that Becca M has given me another shot, and I just know that we would make a great podcast together.
Right. You told that to just the cameras. Becca M.
Yes.
Who is your next mic going through to? And remember, whomever you do not give a mic to is going home.
Man, this one is just, this one's really, really tough. Because, I do enjoy both of these people, and I think it would be fun to interact with each of them on the mic. But, one of these people just didn't even send in a podcast topic. And I just think that shows that, they don't really work hard. And for that reason, I'm going to send Ben W home, and I'm going to offer a mic to Liz S.
Woo! All right. Sorry. Sorry.
Yes. You don't have to be sorry, Steven. We all hated him. Ben W., tell us a little bit of how it feels to be rejected like this. Let me rephrase that. Tell the cameras, just the cameras, while no one else is watching.
I mean, man, honestly, I'm just kind of blindsided, like Stephen Marcus and yourself pulled me aside earlier this evening and said, y'all told me that Becca had told y'all that she was going to give me the mic. So I don't know what happened.
Yeah, we lied.
But it's okay. When the singing version comes out, I'll be back. So just watch yourself.
The singing version?
Yeah, like the Listen to Your Heart Bachelor version, but Listen to Your Heart Podcachelor version. I know it's coming. It's a trend.
Okay. You're right.
Right. Yeah, it might come, maybe.
Great. Liz S., how do you feel that you're going on to the next round?
In the words of Ricky Bobby, if you ain't first, you're last. But I'm glad that I'm not the last.
Well, it seems that Becca M. has gone with her heart and sent home Ben W., whom she called the laziest contestant in the history of the show.
I think it was a good decision, and I think everybody else who's left would agree with me.
Oh, the fans hated him. Just hated him. Hated the way he was, the way he talked, his podcast ideas.
I don't even think he knew what a podcast was.
I don't think so either. He kept talking about when they see me on the podcast, when everyone sees me dancing on the podcast.
That's right. And the only podcast, the only podcast he mentioned knowing was the Pete Holmes show. And
you made it weird with Pete Holmes. He loved that show.
Yeah. So I mean, you already know how we feel about that. But
okay, and now in this show, we're down to 5 contestants: Gina A, Liz S, Carey S, John M, and Jack C. Becca is going to decide tonight who will be her podcast co-host. This is the Podcachelor. The Podcachelor podcast is brought to you by the You Made It Weird podcast starring Pete Holmes.
That's right. He's our enemy, but he's we think he's going to pay us the big bucks, so you should definitely check out his podcast. He's had some interesting guests that we hope to steal from him in the future. But listen to the pod.
Yep, he is. We are having a podcast feud with him here at the Podcachelor podcast. But be that as it may, even though he doesn't respond to our emails, it's a very good podcast, and you should try it out. You Made It Weird with Pete Holmes. Welcome back to the Podcachelor. Becca M, will you tell me a little bit more about yourself? What do our fans not know about you?
I think, what the fans don't know about me is that I like podcasts. This is just something that is really private to me and something that I don't really share a lot about. But, podcasts are something that I listen to hours and hours a day, and I just like podcasts.
Have you ever had your own podcast?
No, I have not, and I think that's why I am so excited to be the Podcachelor.
What was your favorite podcast growing up?
Podcast didn't exist when I was growing up. I'm really old.
Old, yeah.
Really, really old.
I'm aware.
And so I didn't really have a favorite podcast growing up.
You have the rest of your contestants. Is there anything you want to say to all of them before you go on your first solo date of today?
I think the first thing that I really want to say, guys, is no hard feelings. I know that this week is going to be really tough on, 4 out of the 5 of you. So no hard feelings. I just have to do what's best for me, and I don't care what your feelings are.
It's beautiful.
Well, I gotta say, Bo, I'm really looking forward to seeing Jack C cry if he loses.
He's a crier, that Jack C. We've seen him cry every week. Sometimes out of sheer joy, sometimes because of whatever was happening in his personal life, and sometimes just because he just can't really take it when Becca M dishes it out.
That's right.
I just feel things very strongly, so...
Thanks for that, Jack C.
Well, podcasting isn't about feeling, Jack C, so that's something we'll need to work on.
Thanks for butting in, Jack C. Can we move on, Jack C? Is that okay?
Yes.
Well, I know who Becca won't pick for her first solo date. Becca, who would you like to take on a solo date?
I think I would like to take Gina A on my first solo date.
Oh my God. Oh, okay. Hey.
Gina A, how do you feel about going on a solo date with Becca?
I am so excited. I'm really hoping maybe to get some kind of first impression, Mike. I'm so excited. Becca and I have so much in common. And I know that in the past, I've heard John M. and Jack C. Say things about Becca that were not very nice. And so I'm glad she chose well.
Yep, marriage can be hard sometimes. Yeah, you can get a talking head, John M.
It is unbelievable. I cannot believe Becca M would pick Gina. I know for a fact she's here for the wrong reasons. She's here just to get famous from this show. She cares nothing about Becca and her podcast.
Okay, I heard that John was kind of talking shit about me, and anything he said about me is so not true. I'm an influencer. I have plenty of fans. I think I'm here for the right reasons.
Wow. Wise
I just
words.
want to get closer to Becca.
Wow.
All right, let's begin the solo date. Becca, take it away.
So, Gina, tell me about your podcast idea. What exactly was the inspiration behind it?
Well, I really think a lot year-round about Sorority Rush. I think it would be really good if we could really talk about Sorority Rush, if we could talk about what you need to wear as a rushie or a potential new member. I think we need to talk about how you can stand out, but not in a bad way. I think we should talk about self-tanner or not, which way do you want to go, and accessories.
My biggest criticism of this podcast idea is honestly, Rush only happens for a couple of weeks at the beginning of August. Mm-hmm. How are we going to turn this into a year-round podcast?
Well,
that's a great point. But what happens that you're not thinking through, Becca, with all due respect, is that people think about their outfits year round.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Are we going to dive into different schools and how Rush is different at different universities?
I really think we should only stick with the SEC schools. Anything out of the SEC Rush is really insignificant. I mean, if you tell me you're a KD from Oregon, I'm going to roll my eyes.
Can I get a talking head?
Yes.
I'm a KD from Oregon. How dare she talk about my sorority that way? I loved my experience in my sorority. I don't think that this is going to go super well with me and Gina A.
Wow. Well, Bo, that was a really juicy first date. What do you think about that? Do you think Gina A has much of a shot?
I think so far Gina A is blowing it.
Yep.
If you know Becca and I know Becca, I would say she wouldn't take too kindly to this. And I have it on good information that when Becca heard one contestant had a podcast about Rush, she got very excited about a podcast dealing with the intricacies of the 80s band Rush and their experiences on tour and in the recording studio. And so...
That's right. The song with Tom Sawyer, she loves that one.
Yeah, which we will not play here due to budget cuts. Yeah, Gina, you can get a talking head.
Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't realize that Becca was a KD at Oregon, because who even lives in Oregon? And every KD I know from Oregon was kind of a slut.
Becca, how are you feeling overall after your first solo date of the night?
I'm feeling so, Bo. I really, I think Gina's really cool. I love that she's so direct and she says exactly what she's thinking. But, it didn't feel really good when she basically took a stab at my sorority at my university. I honestly think that she's a really awesome person, and she probably just didn't know that about me. But at the same time, I do think sorority life outside of the SEC is important. And so she and I just might have to have a conversation.
So, Becca, let's bring you back into the room into the recording studio where all the rest of the contestants are waiting. Contestants, how do you feel? Are you a little jealous you didn't get picked for the solo date, huh?
Yeah,
jealous?
I kind of wish I had some one-on-one time. I feel like me and Becca would have really hit it off and would have been able to get along really well. But it'll happen. So.
Okay, Becca. Now it is time for your group date. Becca M, I want you to pick 3 contestants who are not Gina A for your group date.
I've been, thinking about this a lot. I just think that there's one person who really deserves some one-on-one time, and that person is Jack C. So I'm going to take John M, Carey S, and Liz S on the group date.
So, Jack, you've just heard from Becca. You're not going on the group date. You didn't cry. Tell us how you're feeling.
Oh, this is kind of a bad thing, but also more of a good thing. Okay. I'm a little bit more shocked. The tears will definitely come later because I definitely thought I had a chance on this group date. So I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of defeated. But I'm really excited to go on that one-on-one later, and I think that could really be a big opportunity. So I'm definitely still in it. So, yeah.
Geez, Steven, Jack C sounds terrible. But I guess that's what smoking does to you.
Sounds like a real loser.
The Podcachelor podcast is also brought to you by the Speaking Terms podcast.
That's right. It's a great pod if you like listening to 2 unlicensed psychologists try to mediate 2 other people who are having a conflict. Usually it goes well, but sometimes it also goes well.
That's right. No licenses, no problem. And even though the hosts of the Speaking Terms podcast have not answered our calls, it's a very good podcast.
That's right.
The Speaking Terms podcast. So we're heading into the group date between Becca M, Carey S, Liz S, and John M. Becca, take us away.
So first off, I just really want to ask the question, which of you can speak the loudest?
I can.
Okay. I'm guessing that this isn't a very assertive bunch. And I'm not going to lie, that's a little bit disappointing. Let's go in a circle. So let's start with John M. Who is your favorite? Lyndon B. Johnson or Lady Bird Johnson?
I'm not a real big history or nautical person, so I don't really know these people. I would probably say Lady. I don't know who that is, though.
Awesome. You're doing great. Carey S. Between the two, who would you prefer?
Oh, between the two, between Lyndon B. Johnson and Lady Bird Johnson?
Yes.
I have to be honest with you, I'm with John M. Really not sure who either of those people, places, or things are, but Lyndon B. Johnson was probably the president, and I'm going to assume he did a good job, so we'll go with that one.
At least she could pin down kind of the facts. So let's move on. Liz S., between Lyndon B. Johnson and Lady Bird Johnson, who is your favorite?
Definitely Lady Bird Johnson. I really related to her in that movie that Greta Gerwig did. What a visionary. I don't know about Lyndon B. Johnson, and I haven't watched a movie about him. So I feel like he probably isn't that good of a person.
Let's see what else. Let's go in a circle again, and this time let's start with Carey S. What do you think your biggest weakness would be as a podcast co-host?
Yeah, that's definitely a great question, Becca. I think my biggest weakness might be that I don't talk loud enough. I could start yelling into the microphone like at any time. So just let me know if that's something you want me to do. I'm totally flexible. Yeah. And also I think a lot of my comedy is pretty visual. So if it's going to be like a comedy podcast or anything like that, my sense of humor might be lost on some of the listeners. No fault to them, of course.
Interesting. I just really love the flexibility of Carey S. When she's talking about being totally willing to yell into the mic. I think that just shows that she could be a really great teammate.
I am just so nervous talking to Becca. I think she's really impressive, and I'm trying to come off as, funny, kind of easy breezy. Just want to be able to show her that I've got a lot to offer on a podcast, and I hope she can see that on this group date.
I gotta say, Bo, it's a real good thing that none of our finalists here have decided to go with a history podcast.
They are real dimwits, I would say.
That's right.
Real stupid people.
That's right. Let's get back to the date then.
Let's do so.
Okay, so Liz S., let's move on to you. What do you think your biggest weakness as a podcast co-host is?
I think probably my internet connection's pretty weak, so that might come into an issue sometimes. I'd be willing to try and switch to like Uverse or something, but right now I have to like connect to the Ethernet, and it's just not very good.
Okay. John M., let's move on to you. What do you think your biggest weakness as a podcast co-host would be?
This is really hard for me to say. Like, it's taken a lot out of me to say this, but I've actually co-hosted some podcasts before, and I've been kicked out of those podcasts for talking too much. And so I'm really hoping to continue to grow as a podcaster, but I know that that's a weakness of mine, is to continue to talk too much.
Why would he even admit that to me? My gosh. I mean, talking too much, like, I mean, I get that the whole podcast thing is about talking, but like, I don't want to be talked over. I'm just not really feeling good about the connection between me and John M at this moment.
Becca, can I ask you a follow-up question to this talking head?
For sure.
Now, you know John M better than anybody. He's your husband. You live in the same house.
Indeed, we do.
You probably know about his faults more than anybody.
Yeah.
What are some of those? How has he hurt your marriage?
It's not like a huge podcasting thing. It would probably get really obnoxious in our podcasting office. John M is just, he doesn't mind a mess. And I'm a very big clean freak. And so, I mean, if he just like left cords everywhere, and like left drinks and things everywhere, it would just drive me insane. And so for that reason, I think that's why it would be really important for me to choose someone else, because we would be podcasting in different spaces.
He'd probably spill drinks on the podcast equipment, don't you think?
That is entirely possible.
Yeah, just something to keep in mind. Also, I hear marriages have a higher rate of divorce when you do a podcast today.
That's very important for me to take into account because, you know, I do love John M, but at the same time, like, I don't want our business to become our podcast. I would rather, you know, us just live our lives outside of the podcast and then this podcast be my thing.
Yeah, it's like you love him, but do you like him? You know, you want to like your podcast partner.
Yeah, you really do. It's very important to like your podcast partner.
Great. Let's get back to the group date.
All right, guys. So I think at this moment, I think I know one person that I need to send home. And I'm very sad to do this because you are indeed my spouse. But John M., I'm sorry, I'm going to have to send you home.
Does anybody have anything to say about this?
I cannot believe that she would pick somebody over her own husband. Who knows?
Wait, sorry, JT. Is this a talking head, or are you saying this in front of everybody?
Both and.
Okay. So you're erupting in the middle of the mic ceremony to tell everybody off and to do a talking head. Please continue.
Yeah, I can do that. I cannot believe that you would pick somebody else over your own husband. You know that we make a great team. We'd be a great podcast. I cannot believe this.
I'm sorry, my heart is just leading me somewhere else, babe.
Unbelievable. Is it Gina?
I can't tell you yet.
JT, let me take you to a private talking head for once. I just want you to get your cool. Do some breathing, please. Do a little bit of breathing. Okay, not so loudly. Remember, it's a podcast. See, JT, John M., this is exactly what Becca was talking about. Don't you think? Is that you crying or is that Jack C crying?
I don't see what she sees in these other podcasts, if I'm being honest.
Does this make you reconsider all the good times with Becca?
Absolutely. It makes me reconsider everything.
Wow.
Yeah, you know, I gotta say, I've been doing some thinking during this, and, you know, I never knew that you were supposed to like your podcast co-host, so my eyes have been opened.
So Becca M., let me just be clear. You have given a mic to Liz S. and Carey S., or are you withholding these mics for later?
I've decided that what I'm going to do is just hold on to all of my mics until the final mic ceremony, and then I will just hand out one mic to the winner.
Like a really big mic?
Yeah, like the biggest mic. It will be the size of me.
And it's like golden too. It's like one of those old ones that an old like Orson Welles would talk into it and talk about aliens. And it's
Exactly.
like big, and it takes a whole like radio station to hold it.
Yes, exactly.
I want the mic.
I am just kind of honestly shocked that Becca sent her husband home. I think honestly that makes me like her even more as a podcast host. You know, she's not willing to put her relationship in front of this podcast, you know, production, and I'd really admire that. As Stephen Marcus once said, podcasts aren't about feelings. So I think she's just really impressing me tonight.
I felt really uncomfortable during that ceremony because she kind of just like sent her husband home from this competition, and yeah. But so like now moving forward, I just hope that when Becca and I get to work together, because I know that we will, that there's no bad blood between us and John M either. Like he kind of seems like the jealous type, and that's a little worrying.
You know, it was really hard to send John M home. I do think that there are better podcast co-hosts out there for me. But honestly, more than anything, I am not looking forward to going home tonight.
Okay, as a also married person, I have empathy and admiration for Becca because I would have sent my husband home out of the gate.
All right, Becca. Before we go into your final solo date with Jack C, will you just tell us a little bit about how you're feeling? What kind of emotional toll is this season taking on you? What are you hopeful for? What are you into right now? What kind of music are you listening to? What movies have you seen?
So let's start with, you know, the emotional toll that, you know, this season has taken on me. I am an introvert. And so talking to 48 people and getting to know them has been absolutely exhausting. But I know that it is so important because this podcast is the next big thing in my life. And, you know, I just really value it.
It's kind of all you have, right?
It is. I have nothing else except my husband, but who knows if that will continue after this. Movies. I don't really watch a lot of movies, but I've been watching a lot of Queer Eye recently. The new season is fantastic. Everyone should check it out.
I gotta say, Becca, in case things do hit the fan with your husband, I've heard from many people that ventriloquists make fantastic husbands.
Yeah, and my mom knows a divorce lawyer, if you want me to get his info.
You know, for now, I really am going to try to work things out with John M. But, you know, I get it if his feelings are too hurt. So it'll all kind of ride on John M. and his feelings.
The Podcachelor podcast is presented by the Podcast But Outside podcast.
Yeah, this is a personal favorite of mine, hosted by Andrew Michonne and Cole Hirsch. Definitely listen to it. Two funny guys, but apparently they aren't very nice because every time I call their personal cell phone, they don't pick up.
They may have blocked us on Twitter, but they still have a pretty good podcast.
That's right. Join them outside.
The Podcast But Outside. All right, Steven. Well, Becca's about to head into her final solo date with Jack C. Do you have any thoughts right now?
Wow, I mean, it's just been a really wild and dramatic, and I mean, we've really had everything in this episode, and I'm excited to see if Jack cries, if he doesn't, who Becca picks. I really have no idea at this point.
I have no idea. It could be anybody. Becca, well, let's take you over to your solo date. What do you say?
I'm ready.
Hey, Becca, can I steal you for a sec?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you didn't hear this from me, but I think it's really important for you to know that Jack C is he has a podcast. He's
What?
like an intern on the Pete Holmes show.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm like super serious.
How did you find this out?
I have an insider knowledge, and they were telling him about Jack C, and I looked it up, and it's the same dude.
Thank you, Liz, for coming and talking to me. This is really important. I very much value your honesty.
Becca, sorry to interrupt. Are you ready to go to your solo date with your favorite contestant, Jack C?
Oh, I'm ready. Jack C, I have had something come to my attention recently that honestly is very disturbing. Are you an intern on Pete Holmes' show?
Okay, so you know what? It's true. I was about a few months ago. I got a job opportunity with the Pete Holmes show. It's an intern position. All I do is arrange their travel, their hotels, and their flights. Okay, people like to blow it out of proportion and think that I'm some high roller podcaster with all this stuff going on, but in reality, I'm just bottom of the totem pole, just like everyone else. Okay, I'm trying to crack into the podcast industry, and I personally think that I personally think that Becca is my best shot, because I think that my idea for podcast is really good, and I think that she would be a great podcast co-host. So I really want to see where this would take me in the podcasting industry.
Bella, are you fucking serious? I'm not in Twilight. I honestly, Jack, I honestly just feel like you're lying to me. I don't trust you. Arranging travel, just admit it. You work for them and you're just trying to ride my coattails. And honestly, that's not going to work here. So I think it's best if you just packed up your microphone, packed up all of your audio equipment, and went home.
I mean, I didn't mean to do. Oh gosh, I mean, how do I say this? I mean, all I meant to say was that I really think that she was such a good co-host, and everyone makes little slip-ups. Okay, I mean, it's not my fault that I know a lot of Beccas and Bellas and people in my life, and I just want another shot. I still think I got a lot of opportunity, but I mean, I gotta respect your decision.
I think it's so insane that Jack C tried to hide the fact that he works for the Pete Holmes show, like he thought we weren't going to find out. I don't know. I really respect Becca for sending him right home.
I just think it's really important that podcasters are just really honest with each other. I don't know how you can really have a successful podcast if the first pillar is not honesty.
I'm kind of on Liz's side because I feel like he needed to be exposed, and he's kind of a hack. I think he uses dial-up, and I think he has a flip phone.
By the way, Gina, you totally owe me $20 now because Jack cried like a baby.
Carey, talking head for you is: do you have anything that you're worried that Liz will find out about it and tell Becca? Do you want to share what that is?
Yeah, so I don't really have any skeletons in my closet or anything, but it hasn't been brought up yet that I don't actually have an idea for a podcast. It's just an idea for a restaurant. So I mean that's not I don't know what she's gonna think about that.
Becca.
Yeah.
You just sent Jack C home.
Yeah.
He was a fan favorite. He was a big crybaby baby. He's a big crier. And you sent him home because he's an intern for You Made It Weird with Pete Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
Walk us through kind of what emotions are you feeling? What outlets do you wish you had right now?
Honestly, the emotions I'm feeling, it's just one, it's anger. And honestly, when I'm angry, I process that through eating. So in this moment, I kind of wish that I also owned a restaurant that served tapas, but I guess I'm just going to have to go eat my feelings elsewhere.
Becca, can I steal you for just a second?
Sure.
Okay, you know I want this bad, but
Mm-hmm.
what I want to let you know is that Carey S doesn't even have an idea for a podcast. She has an idea for a restaurant. And also, I just cooked some tapas and they're coming out of the oven.
Great. Thank you so much for telling me this, Gina.
You're welcome.
Can I get a talking head real fast?
Yeah.
I can't believe Gina's like getting all up in my business with the other potential podcast co-hosts. Our relationships are private, and honestly, I had a feeling that Carey didn't have a podcast idea. I've heard her talking about a restaurant a lot, and honestly, I thought it would be really fun if we could have, a restaurant on the bottom and then a podcast studio on the top floor. And I was just like really, really buying into this whole idea of a combined thing, and letting her creativity flow in the restaurant and mine flow in the podcast studio. So I'm just kind of annoyed that Gina would come in and basically assert herself into our relationship.
Sounds like you're really wanting like a two broke girls situation. Would you say that's true?
I haven't watched the show, but I like the idea of being two girls that are broke.
Okay, I don't get it. How can I win with this girl? Do I want to do a podcast with her? Yes, 100%. But I can't win with her. I have done everything I can think of to win her over, and nothing's good enough.
Becca M, we're about to head into the final mic ceremony. Well, you'll hand out the 12-foot tall bronze mic statue. And whoever gets the mic statue will become your co-host on a podcast. Walk us through a little bit, just kind of like, how are you envisioning your future podcast? And who might you see filling that? But don't pick yet.
It's really hard. I really, really like Carey S, Liz S, and Gina A. They all bring really, really different strengths to basically their campaign for my podcast. It's been really tough. At times Gina A has been my favorite. I really love her podcast topic. It was something that really stressed me out when I went through recruitment. But I just love Liz S's honesty. I trust her a whole lot. And I think the world of her. And so, at times she's been the favorite. And at other times, Carey S has been the favorite. I kind of love that she has been the one contestant that hasn't told me anything about her podcast idea, simply because I think it means that she is willing to kind of discuss that and shape that with me. It seems like she is just willing to explore together what's the topic that the two of us could really bond over. And so all three of these contestants have, really been close to my heart at one time or another. And so it's going to be really tough to send two of these girls home.
Walk us through very quick, what is the most detestable thing about each remaining contestant?
The most detestable thing about Liz S is probably her podcast idea. The weather in different cities. Are we weathermen? Like, what are we doing? I don't really know what her vision is. And so that's probably the thing that I like the least about Liz S.
How would you change that idea? Yeah.
What if she changed that idea?
How would you change that idea? What would you do differently with that?
I just think, weather is kind of boring. Let's leave that to weather.com or the Weather Channel. But if we wanted to talk about how, different cities or different countries have contributed to science worldwide. That would be cool. It's just the weather part that's very boring.
You ever seen the movie Twister?
I have indeed. Let's see. The most detestable thing about Gina A was probably just that, she said that stuff about my sorority and specifically my chapter. But, I think we've had a few conversations since then, and the relationship has started to get back up on its feet. And the most detestable thing about Carey S is probably, I really don't know. I think Carey S is a great gal. It's hard to answer that question.
If that's all you have to say about her and you're ready, we can enter the mic ceremony.
All right.
Steven, before we enter the final mic ceremony, what do our listeners need to know?
Wow, it's really I don't even know what to say. I'm just really excited. I've got a lot of money on Liz S. I love to gamble.
Yes.
And I'm hoping to come home big.
What are the odds on Liz S? Vegas odds.
That'd be 8-3.
Steven, just what's been your impression on the season so far?
Wow. I'm really happy we got to this point because Becca kicked off all the contestants I hated. We got rid of Ben W early. We got rid of the crybaby Jack C. We got rid of John M. Who needs him? And yeah, I think we really narrowed it down to the best three, except for, of course, the ventriloquists.
We're entering the final mic ceremony. The final contestants, Gina A, Liz S, and Carey S. Becca, hand out your first suitcase. Tell us who is going home first.
Okay. Ladies, first off, I think it's just really important for me to tell each and every one of you how thankful I am that y'all are a part of this process. How thankful I am that y'all stuck through to the end, because I really did need this time to figure out who my podcast co-host would be. So with that, my suitcase tonight is going to Liz S.
Oh, shit!
I just really can't believe that Becca decided over me to choose like Gina A or Carey S. I don't even know who won. I ran out of the door. But like, good luck to them. She doesn't even know what a good podcast is.
Yeah.
I'll wait. I feel it. I just have a good feeling about this. I'll be heartbroken. I know there's a limo sitting outside waiting on me, but I don't know. I've never been this nervous ever in my whole life.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that Liz S was the one to be sent home first. Liz S was kind of like my closest friend of all the contestants through this whole process. So I do hate to see her go, but it's bittersweet because
What's your favorite memory that you and Liz S share?
Oh, Bo, I'm so glad you asked. My favorite memory, I think, that Liz S and I shared, we really bonded over our love for small plates of food. Yeah, and we just had some really great talks late at night.
All right, Becca. Well, this is what it comes down to. There's 2 contestants left.
Okay, no. Okay, I'm back in here because I think that honestly, I did not get a fair treatment. Okay, and I just have to say it. All right, I just think that okay. I know I was kicked off, but I'm back because I really don't think that I was given a fair treatment here. Okay, everyone else got their one-on-one time, their group time, and then okay, all this stuff comes out. Yes, it's true. I was an intern. Yes, it's true. I can't remember people's names, but that doesn't mean that we don't get our one-on-one time, because I think if she really got what I picture for our podcast, I think it would be next level, and I think that that's what I think that's what I deserve, because really I really missed out on a lot here. So yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not expect to see Jack C back in the room. Becca, what do you have to say?
Honestly, I just wish Jack would leave. I'm over it. I think he needs to get over it. I'm trying to make this really critical decision for my life, and I would really love it if he would stop trying to monopolize my time.
All right, Jack. Well, I just spoke with Becca, and you got to get the hell out of here, man. Just go wherever you came from and go cry by yourself.
Get out of here, Jack.
Get out of here.
Get out of here, you crybaby.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Okay.
This show's not for you. This show's not for you. Get out of here.
Becca, this isn't over. I'll be back next season.
Oh, go mute yourself, Jack.
Becca, back to you with your decision.
Gina A, Carey S. This journey has meant so much to me. And honestly, I just think the best thing to do is to just say what my heart is telling me. So, I'm sorry, Gina, but Carey S, can I offer you this mic?
Yes, I accept.
Wow. That was something. That was beautiful. You know, I'm sad I'm down $1,000, but I'm so excited we got here. Bo, what do you think we should do?
I think that we should flash forward to Becca M and Carey S's brand new podcast. Here's a sample.
Welcome back to Hollywood Dinner Night. This is Becca, and with me is Carey.
We are so excited to have you listening tonight. We've got an incredible show in store. Becca, I just want to take a moment to really celebrate like how far we've come from the Podcachelor when we first met. I mean, we've had a couple wonderful episodes. I mean, if you remember, we had like the cast of the OC, the hit MTV show, came back. That was a lot of drama there. Some stars from RuPaul's Drag Race actually came to our dinner party one night. So those are all awesome episodes that you can totally listen to.
I have really enjoyed it. It's been simultaneously delightful and stressful to host celebrities in my home, but I wouldn't have chosen anyone besides you to have as my co-host along this ride.
Oh, Becca, I feel the same way.
So, Carey, who do we have this week?
This is actually, I'm so glad you asked. This is going to be an incredible episode, not only for you and I, but for like basically anybody who was alive in the 90s. We've got the Seinfeld cast reuniting in our dining room this week on this episode. So we've got Jason Alexander, we've got Julia Louis-Dreyfus, we've got Michael Richardson, we've got Jerry Seinfeld, none other, and then also even maybe a surprise visit from Larry David. So it's all going to be happening right here on this episode.
Real quick, Carey, who are these people?
So, so Jerry Seinfeld obviously is like the star of the show, being that it is named after him. Really, like, I guess the premise of the show, it's really all about nothing, and they sort of just have these, fun, crazy adventures. And then the rest of those people are just, supporting actors and actresses. However, this is going to be so incredible because they haven't really been together since the filming of the last episode, which truly was decades ago. So, it's going to be absolutely amazing to have them, and I can't wait to decide what we're going to cook for them.
Oh man, I'm definitely nervous because I don't feel like I know who any of these people are, so I'm really going to have to lean on your expertise.
You remember Jerry Seinfeld from like the Bee movie, the voice
was
of
he
that
the bee?
Bee. Yeah, he was the Bee.
Okay, I know him.
Yeah, Jason Alexander was also like featured in Pretty Woman. I don't know if you remember that. He's like short, stocky, kind of balding. I think he like
Is he the guy that pinches Julia Roberts' ass at the polo thing?
Absolutely. Jason Alexander's was
Oh, he's kind
that.
of a dick.
Well, I mean, I don't disagree with you, but I think the more drama the better when they're here. And also you might recognize Julia Louis-Dreyfus from The Veep. I think that's a pretty successful show that she has.
Didn't she like steal Tina Fey's Emmy one time?
Um, yeah, I mean that we can definitely like bring that up at dinner. I think that might be really good fodder for conversation.
Mm.
But of course we want to keep it light. We want to keep it, easy breezy with everybody, because it is going to be a fantastic reunion with everybody.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to it. So, what are we going to cook for them?
Becca, I never thought you'd ask.
If you want to hear more of what Becca and Carey's podcast ended up becoming, the Hollywood Dinner Night podcast, it's so good we're going to release a bonus episode sometime later this weekend, that's going to have the rest of the episode. It's so good. Thanks for sticking around this whole time. Statistics show that all of our fans, our many hundreds, dozens and dozens of fans, stick around the entire time. So thank you, the fans, for doing that. For the Premise Podcast, I'm Bo Segrest, and also Steven is the host.